This is Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you have an existing estate plan or are in the market for one, Todd Lutsky is here to answer your questions and help you plan for later life. Ask Todd is presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 35 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Visit CushingDolan.com. Now, here's Todd Lutsky.
And we are now joined by Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan. The segment, it's called Ask Todd because you get to ask Todd your estate planning questions. We've got the phone lines open at 888-205-2263. That is the number to call to ask Todd your estate planning questions. Last week, we couldn't get to everyone, so if you were one of the people last week who was trying to call and you couldn't get your question answered, 888-205-2263 is the number. If you want to get in line early to make sure that you're able to ask Todd your question today, that number again is 888-205-2263. We do have space on the phone lines, and so again, make sure you call 888-205-2263 to ask Todd Lutsky your questions. Mr. Lutsky, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And should I ask how you're doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah, what happened?
I got into a fight with a baby frog yesterday.
Yeah? How'd that work out?
Well, he was a tad polarizing.
Yeah, it sure would be.
So it didn't go great. But, Todd, I want to talk a little bit about Medicaid irrevocable trust today. And let's say that someone has an irrevocable trust that is built for the purpose of qualifying assets for Medicaid.
Okay.
What can and can't they do with the assets that are placed in said irrevocable trust?
Should we just try to pick on both, or like income? You want to do like real estate or money? Or should we do both?
Let's start with money.
Money's good. That's what you work on. So we'll do money.
Let's start with money.
So let's say you put the money in the trust, right? And again, folks, and it's very important. The way Chuck described this is that it's the kind of irrevocable trust that we do to protect from the nursing homes, because there are many kinds of irrevocable trusts. I want to put that out there first, that so many people hear the word irrevocable and think rigid, inflexible, I can't change it, I can't do anything. There are those kinds. This isn't one of them. And I that's why Chuck was trying to make it clear that this is for Medicaid protection purposes. Now, that said, what can you put in? Well, you can put in real estate. You can put in money, rental properties, not IRAs. So let's say we put your investment portfolio and let's call it $500,000. Okay, we got $500,000 in the trust. If it wasn't in the trust, you would be managing and investing that money. I would imagine that's what people do. If it's in the trust, you would be managing and investing that money just like you do today. Okay, well, once that money is managed and invested, and again, when I say that, I mean you can call your broker, you can talk to your financial advisor. Even if you're not the trustee, you're allowed to do that. Okay, that's called limited trading authority, so no problem. Okay, well, then this money, after you do all of this, is generating interest and dividends. So, well, that's income. I want my income. Well, the trust gives you the income just like it would give you the income today. So if you didn't do your planning and you had the money sitting in your brokerage account, you'd get the income. Okay, well, that makes sense. So far, so good. Well, at the end of the year, you get a nasty 1099 that says this is how much income you earned, and you get to put that on your tax return today. Well, if you have it in one of these Medicaid trusts, which we design specifically as grantor trusts, which means for income tax purposes, you're considered the owner. Well, then you get to put that money on your income tax return. And yes, you get to put it on your income tax return, your own personal income tax return at your own personal rates, just like you would if you didn't have the trust, even if you don't take the money out. I mean, think about it. So many times today you've got your portfolio, but you don't take any money out. It's just growing, but you still got to pay taxes on it. Same deal here. The only difference is this trust will have an ID number when you open up that account. It's like a social security number for a trust. And then this trust will file its income tax return based on that ID number. But because it's a grantor trust, the form is 1041, but because it's a grantor trust, it will not report any income. It will kick out a letter to you, the owner, and you'll put the numbers on your tax return just like before. So sounds to me like very little change, even with an irrevocable trust.
Talking with Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan. If you have a question that you'd like to ask Todd about your estate plan, the studio line here is 888-205-2263. That is the number to call to ask Todd your questions about your estate plan. Again, it is 888-205-2263. We're going to take a quick break right now, but when we come back, we're going to get right to your questions with Todd. That number is 888-205-2263. One more time, it's 888-205-2263. Your questions when we come back.
This is your home for the most comprehensive coverage of the economy and the trends on Wall Street. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
As promised, it's time to get right to your calls with Todd Lutsky. First in the queue, we've got Michael from West Roxbury. Michael, what's your question for Todd Lutsky?
Yes, I have a last-minute problem that I hopefully he can give me some good resolution for. Basically, my mother is already in a nursing home with no pre-planning.
Okay.
And we have been there for over a year, and she's gone through all of her cash.
Oh, boy.
And now we have the house that's been sold.
The house has already been sold?
Correct.
Oh, boy.
It is.
This is one mistake after another.
Yes, it is.
So how much money did you get for the house?
$560, I think we cleared. All
And-
said and done.
And how old is your mom?
She's 83.
83. So
Actually, she's 84.
so basically at this point you're saying, please, can I stop paying $15,000 a month to the nursing home, and how can I get eligible for Medicaid is really the only thing that I see. And last minute planning can be done. Of course, we all wish you would have done the last a year ago, folks, and this is important for everybody. This isn't necessarily to just pick on this situation. This is important for everybody to learn from this, that if you're in the nursing home and you're writing that check, don't just write the check, right? Call somebody right away, because a year ago we probably could have stopped this. So we would have taken whatever money they had a year ago, and they probably spent a good $150,000, I'm guessing, on the nursing home. So we would have taken that $150,000 a year ago, bought a Medicaid annuity for it, converting it to an income stream, assuming there's no community spouse and it's just your mom, then we would have gotten rid of that, getting her down to $2,000. And having a primary residence, it's non-countable in the form of a primary residence. And so she would have been eligible for Medicaid a year ago. She would have been eligible for Medicaid a whole year ago. And we would have stopped or slowed the bleeding. Now, the fact that that didn't happen, and we're faced with the money already being spent, and now we're selling a house. If the house wasn't sold and you had called prior to selling the house, even though you spent $150,000 for a year in the nursing home, I would have said, don't sell the house. Let's either rent it or just maintain it if the children know they're going to get it, and you'd be eligible for Medicaid, because a house, primary residence, non-countable for Medicaid eligibility. Yes, it's lienable, but it's non-countable, so it's a huge savings. But since it's been sold and we're now left with just money, and there's plenty of people who have just money when they're entering a nursing home, we're back to this idea of buying an annuity for an 83-year-old person. They are a special designed Medicaid annuity. You need to seek out help from an elder law attorney to do this. Don't just try to buy it on your own. And apply for Medicaid. I can tell you that we can get your mom eligible for Medicaid pretty much right away and slow the bleeding. When I say slow the bleeding, I mean it will go from a approximately $15,000 a month nursing home bill to a full pay $6,500 a month approximately nursing home bill, of which is offset by Social Security and the annuity payment. So the state will be paying a little. So that's a really big help. I hope that gets you at least thinking about what the next steps are for you. And folks, one of the things I think that we should talk about is, here there's no planning done, and it does happen. I get it. There's not something you can do all the time. But the guide we're giving away this month is Unlocking the Power of Medicaid Irrevocable Trusts, and it really describes for you how they work. And if Mike's mom had done the planning in advance, or anybody, not picking on Mike's mom, but if instead they put that house in the trust 5 years ago, that house would be all protected. We wouldn't be worried about any of this at this point. And while putting it in there, learn how the trust works, and you'll see how much control you keep, because I think you'll find that there's way more control over these trusts than not. And if you've never done a trust and you want to learn how they work, this guide is for you. 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com. Again, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com, and you can get the guide.
Todd, I've got another caller for you here. Let's go to Dave in Worcester. Dave, you're on with Todd Lutsky.
Good morning, Todd.
Hi, Dave.
My question is concerning a property owned in a revocable trust with a mortgage attached to it.
You said revocable trust, correct?
Yes.
Revocable trust. Okay, and it's got a mortgage. I'm with you.
Mortgage has been paid for about 10, 15 years. My question was concerning the due-on clause. Is there, say the owner of the trust expires, the beneficiaries to receive that property, what has to happen as far as the due-on clause is concerned? Is there some sort of language that can be put into the trust to pay the mortgage on their demise?
So,
how does that work?
Is the person currently still living?
Yes.
Okay, so I can address this. So now, because the property, I think it's important for people to understand the difference between revocable and irrevocable. So in this case, it's in a revocable trust. The initial setting up of the document, putting the property, even though it's encumbered in a revocable trust, has no bearing on the due on sale clause. And that's what Dave was referring to. It's a due on sale, due on transfer clause. All mortgages have these because they didn't lend to the person you're giving it to. They lent to you. So you then would have to be the one that would be on the note. Now, putting it into a revocable trust, no impact. However, as Dave indicated, what happens when the creator, the donor of the revocable trust dies? Well, the revocable trust becomes irrevocable right away, and that technically you're now, if you read the document, it probably says the property located in the trust or the assets in the trust need to be divided and paid out, let's just say, equally to the kids. Well, if it says divide and pay it out equally to the kids, what do we have? We have a transfer. We have the property coming out of the trust to the kids that will trigger the due on sale clause, the due on transfer clause, having the bank call the note. Now, they might not know right away, and there might be language in the trust that allows you to pay this bill. I don't know if it's in there or it's not in there, but technically, if you're getting the money in the trust, just take the money and pay the mortgage. But the bank's going to learn about the death, and they're going to call it. So your best bet is simply to go to the bank and ask them, can we strike up a deal to assume the mortgage? And they will tell you. Obviously, we're in a high-rate environment now, or a higher-rate environment. They'll let you know what the story is. But, yeah, hard to deal with. There's no way around the due on sale clause.
Mr. Lutsky, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
This has been Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky has been presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 30 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Call 800-393-4001 or visit CushingDolan.com. The views expressed in this segment are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Armstrong Advisory does not provide any legal or tax advice. Please consult with your legal or tax advisor on such matters. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Elder life planning can be overwhelming, so make sure you're prepared, or you could make costly mistakes that affect your overall plan. Irrevocable trusts are the most common type of trust that folks use for financial protection. And while they can be complicated to create, they help keep your assets safe because they contain specific protections that many of us need, like the possibility of eliminating your estate taxes. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law and taxation, and they can devise a plan that covers you in every area where issues can arise. Their new guide is called Unlocking the Power of Irrevocable Medicaid Trusts. Learn more about how these trusts can benefit your family by calling 866-848-5699 right now. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide right now by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.